The night was supposed to be ordinary. Just another shift. Just another room full of wealthy guests who didn't know the names of the people serving them. But the moment Maya Thompson stepped onto the gleaming marble floor of the Skycrest rooftop restaurant, she felt that strange heaviness in the air. The tension, the uneasiness, the way the staff whispered instead of spoke, something was off. Maya, the only black waitress in the room, carried her tray with quiet grace. Her uniform was crisp, her steps controlled, her expression calm. But beneath that calm was exhaustion, and a kind of sadness she had learned to disguise so well it felt like part of her skin. The city glittered through the tall glass windows. Investors laughed at corner tables. Couples clinked glasses. Everything looked perfect, at least from far away. Then he arrived. Ethan Cole, the billionaire. The man known for turning a simple dinner complaint into a public execution. He didn't walk into rooms, he conquered them. And tonight he chose a table right in the center, where everyone could see him, fear him, and try not to disappoint him. Maya approached his table with the same soft, professional smile she had practiced for years. She set down his drink, stepped back, and prayed the night would pass smoothly. But fate had different plans. Ethan lifted his fork, took a single bite of his entree, and froze. His jaw tightened. His eyes sharpened. The room felt the shift before he even stood. Then, with a voice so loud and sharp it sliced through every conversation, he shouted, "Who made this?" The restaurant fell silent instantly. Glasses stopped halfway to lips. Servers turned pale. Managers stiffened. And slowly, painfully slowly, every head in the room turned toward Maya. Her breath hitched. Her fingers trembled around the tray. She had no idea what was coming, only that the last time Ethan Cole reacted like this, someone lost their job, their dignity, and their chance at a future. But this time, something deeper was hidden beneath his anger. Because what they didn't know was that this moment, this dish, and this quiet black waitress he was staring at would change everything. Morning arrived quietly in Maya Thompson's world. Not with alarms or hurried footsteps, but with responsibility. Her small apartment barely caught the sunrise, yet the moment light touched the cracked paint of the walls, Maya was already awake. She moved with quiet purpose, not because she wanted to, but because life didn't give her the luxury of resting. Her younger brother, Jordan, lay curled under a thin blanket on the couch they shared. The boy had school in a few hours, and she didn't want him waking to the sound of her rushing. She stood for a moment, watching him breathe. That boy was the reason she kept going. The reason she never quit. The reason she worked double shifts in a world that rarely looked her in the eye. Maya tied her hair back, slipped into her worn-out sneakers, and headed to the bus stop while the city was still yawning awake. While others were just beginning their day, Maya had already lived a full emotional life before stepping through the glass doors of the Skycrest rooftop restaurant. The staff called it the Palace. But Maya knew better. Palaces weren't built on fear. Inside, the Daker was modern luxury, marble floors, gold accents, velvet booths, walls of framed awards that praised the restaurant's high standards. But behind all that prestige was a place where a single mistake could cost you everything. And Maya, she had made mistakes before. Not here, but somewhere far more painful. Before she became a waitress, she had been a culinary student. A good one, a passionate one who stayed up late perfecting recipes inspired by her grandmother's cooking. Her grandmother had raised her on love, resilience, and food that tasted like soul and memory. Maya wanted to honor her. Maya wanted to build something in her name. But life didn't ask what she wanted. One incident, just one, had pushed her dream off a cliff. A powerful benefactor at her culinary school accused her of stealing a recipe during a competition. She hadn't. She had created it herself, from the herbs her grandmother taught her to blend by hand. But no one listened. Not the judges. Not the administration. And definitely not the wealthy sponsor whose child was on the judging panel. Maya left the school with her dignity shattered and her financial support cut. From that day forward, every kitchen door seemed to close the moment she reached for it. So she ended up here. serving people who would never imagine the brilliance she once carried. Her shift started the way all her shifts did, quietly, efficiently, invisibly. Maya greeted every guest with the same gentle warmth, even when they dismissed her with a nod that barely acknowledged she was human. But someone did notice her. Chef Andre. To the staff, he was a genius. To Maya, he was the only person who saw beyond her apron. Andre was a middle-aged chef with laugh lines, silver-streaked hair, and a heart that had endured too much loss to let talent go unnoticed. He watched Maya from the pass window as she took orders with grace, handled complaints with patience, and diffused conflicts with calm cheeks and tired eyes. Something about her presence reminded him of someone he once mentored before life swallowed their dreams too. Some nights when the restaurant had closed and the team cleaned the last wine glass, Maya would hand Andre tiny samples of food she cooked at home. Just enough for one bite, a whisper of what she could do. And every single time, Andre tasted it slowly, eyes widening as though he was discovering a secret hidden in plain sight. "You've got a gift," he would say. "The world just hasn't seen it yet." Maya always responded the same. "The world doesn't need to." She didn't believe in miracles anymore. But Andre did. Quietly, sincerely. Meanwhile, in a different world entirely, Ethan Cole was preparing to arrive. His face dominated business headlines. His wealth outshined entire companies. His voice carried through boardrooms like a blade. People feared him. People obeyed him. People flinched when he so much as raised an eyebrow. Tonight's reservation was personal. He was bringing international investors, men and women who treated dining like a performance. Every dish mattered. Every detail mattered. And Ethan's reputation for perfection meant staff braced themselves the moment his name appeared on the booking list. Linda, the restaurant's manager, gave her usual speech. "No mistakes, no delays, no improvising. And for heaven's sake, don't talk unless the guest speaks first, especially him." Linda wasn't cruel. She just feared the billionaire more than she valued her workers. She pulled Maya aside specifically. "Maya, please don't try to be creative tonight. No flourishes, no suggestions, nothing, just serve the plates, and smile." Maya nodded, swallowing the sting. Smile. That was her job. Not to create. Not to shine. Not to be seen. Just to smile. The hours passed in preparation. Napkins folded with military precision, cutlery polished until reflections blurred, plates wiped 10 times each, staff moving like shadows. And then, Ethan Cole arrived. The restaurant changed temperature when he entered. Conversations dipped. Staff straightened spines. Even the lights seemed to shift focus. Maya was assigned as his server, a decision that made her stomach tighten. Not because she feared him, but because she feared losing everything she'd worked to rebuild. She approached his table with calm steps, keeping her voice gentle, steady, neutral. Ethan barely glanced at her. To him, she was just another uniform, another nameless figure. But something in his expression tonight seemed unusual. His eyes were harder, his mood colder, his tension thicker. He lifted his glass. He tasted it. He said nothing. But Maya sensed it. Something unexpected was about to happen. Something that would pull her past right back into her present. Something that would rip open secrets Ethan didn't know he still carried. Something that would shake the world of everyone on that rooftop. And all it took was one dish. Dinner service had barely begun when the Skycrest rooftop restaurant shifted into a different kind of atmosphere. The kind that happens when someone powerful enters a room built on hierarchy and silent fear. Ethan Cole sat at the center table like a judge taking his throne. His expression was carved from stone. His investors, seated around him, wore expensive watches, tight smiles, and the smug confidence of people used to being served first and thanked later. They didn't look at the staff, they looked through them. Maya approached with careful steps, shoulders squared, face calm. Her heart thudded quietly beneath her uniform, but her voice stayed steady as she recited the specials. Ethan didn't look up once. He listened, impatiently tapping a finger on the polished table. She placed his entree before him with gentle hands. "Enjoy your meal, sir." He gave a curt nod that said he didn't care who she was, just that she performed her role perfectly. The kitchen was in controlled chaos behind her, orders printed non-stop, pans hissed. Chef Andre's voice carried steady authority. Everyone felt the weight of Ethan's presence, even behind the closed kitchen door. Maya moved on to the next table, balancing a tray, collecting empty glasses, keeping her breath slow and controlled. She had done this 1,000 times. She knew how to keep her emotions tucked neatly away. But then it happened. A sudden hush. Not loud. Not sharp. Just wrong. Maya didn't see Ethan lift his fork, but she saw the entire room freeze the moment he tasted his entree. It was the kind of stillness people feel in their bones. Ethan's fork touched the plate again. He stared down at it. A strange expression flickered over his face. Confusion, disbelief, something that didn't fit the usual portrait of the ruthless billionaire. Then he stood. Everyone saw him rise. The servers straightened. The investors paused mid-sentence. Even the pianist lost the next note. Ethan looked around the room slowly, as if searching for a ghost. Then his voice erupted. "Who made this?" The shout cracked through the room like a whip. Guests flinched. A couple gasped. A waiter dropped a napkin. Every set of eyes shifted between the billionaire and the staff. Ethan held the dish in the air. His jaw tightened. "Who made this?" he repeated, louder, angrier. Chef Andre emerged from the kitchen, wiping his hands. He stepped forward with practiced humility. "I did, sir. I prepared all in trays tonight." Ethan snapped his head toward him. "No, not like this, not this flavor." Andre blinked. "Sir, I assure you." "Someone touched this plate." Ethan's voice had changed, sharper but also strangely shaken. "Someone altered it. I want to know who." A manager rushed forward, trying to calm him with empty pleasantries. "Mr. Cole, I'm sure there's no." He raised his hand, silencing her. Then his eyes drifted across the restaurant, searching, scanning, narrowing. Maya felt them land on her. Her chest tightened. She looked at the dish. She looked at his expression. And suddenly, she knew. Earlier, Chef Andre had run out of garnish on one station. Maya, passing by with her tray, had noticed the plate missing something. She grew up learning how to finish plates with balance. It was instinct to reach for the small tin of herbs she kept in her apron. Just a pinch, just a flavor meant to brighten the dish subtly. Nothing dramatic, nothing anyone would even notice. Or so she thought. The dishwasher, a shy boy named Raffi, shifted nervously near the back. He looked between Maya and Ethan. His conscience warred silently. He didn't want to betray her, but he also didn't want trouble. Ethan's voice dropped dangerously low. "Someone here knows something." Raffi swallowed hard. Then he whispered, barely audible. "Maya, she added something. I saw her." The room turned as one. A slow pivot of faces, all tightening with judgment. Maya felt her heart plummet. She stepped forward, forcing herself to breathe. "Yes, I added a small herb blend. Just a garnish, sir, I didn't think." Ethan cut her off. "You touched this dish." Her voice wavered. "Yes." The investors exchanged looks, some disapproving, some amused. Linda, the manager, stiffened in horror, already preparing her "you're fired" speech. Maya lowered her gaze. "I'm sorry, it won't happen again." But Ethan didn't look angry anymore. He looked unsettled. He lifted the plate to her eye level. "Where did you learn this?" His voice carried something uncomfortable, almost vulnerable. Maya blinked, confused. "It's just something my grandmother taught me when I was young." Ethan inhaled sharply, as if hit by a memory he didn't want to remember. Linda stepped forward quickly. "She overstepped, Mr. Cole. She shouldn't have touched the food. I'll take responsibility and remove her from the floor immediately." Ethan didn't move, didn't blink, didn't acknowledge her. He looked only at Maya. "Make it again," he said. Maya froze. Sir, I'm not a..." "Make it again." His voice was steady, firm, commanding. The room murmured. Guests whispered behind hands. Staff exchanged wide-eyed glances. Linda sputtered, "She's front of house. She's not allowed in the kitchen." Ethan turned slowly toward her. Do you own this restaurant? Silence. No, sir, Linda whispered. Then don't decide who cooks. His gaze flicked back to Maya. I want to see if you can recreate this flavor. Maya's breath shook as she tried to understand what was happening. This wasn't humiliation. This wasn't one of Ethan's infamous tirades. This was something else. A test. A demand. A moment that could either destroy her career or resurrect the dream she buried years ago. Her hands trembled, but she lifted her chin. Okay, she whispered. And the entire restaurant watched the quiet black waitress walk toward the kitchen, the place she had been pushed out of for years, unsure whether she was being punished or discovered. Servers whispered urgently. Line cooks exchanged worried looks. A few muttered under their breath about front-of-house staff messing up the flow. Chef Andre rushed to her side instantly, concern etched across his face. What happened? He asked quietly. Maya swallowed hard. Ethan Cole tasted something in the dish, something familiar. He wants me to recreate it. Andre blinked like he hadn't heard correctly. What do you mean, recreate it? Maya, you're not online, you're not trained here. I know, she murmured, but I think he tasted my herb blend. Andre's eyes widened slowly, understanding dawning. The one you carry in your apron. She nodded. Andre looked toward the door, toward the billionaire sitting outside with the intensity of a storm gathering. This could go very badly, he whispered. Then, after a beat, or very right. Linda marched into the kitchen, heels clicking like accusations. She pointed at Maya. You're done, out. He asked for perfection and you tampered with his food. Andre stepped in front of her. No, he specifically told her to cook. And you're going to allow that? Linda spat. Andre held her gaze, unimpressed. You're the manager, not the chef. Linda opened her mouth again, but Ethan's voice boomed faintly from the dining floor. Is she cooking or not? Linda, shut up. Maya inhaled slowly, steadying her shaking hands. Chef Andre squeezed her shoulder. You know flavor better than half the people here, he whispered. Do it your way, trust yourself. Those words hit deeper than he realized. For years, Maya had carried the weight of that culinary school accusation, the humiliation, the disbelief, the way doors closed before she even touched the handle. She learned to shrink herself so no one would question her again. But now, Ethan was forcing those doors back open. She stepped into the line station. Her hands hovered over the ingredients like they were old friends she hadn't touched in years. The staff watched in tense silence. Maya began to cook. At first her movements were hesitant, measuring, checking, second-guessing herself. But the moment she inhaled the aroma of the herbs, something inside her unlocked. Memories. Her grandmother's kitchen. Warm laughter. Steam rising from pots. Lessons whispered in love. Maya moved faster. More confidently. She cooked not just the dish Ethan demanded, but the way she felt asterisk it. Every pinch of seasoning carried a story. Every stir held a memory. Every garnish was a quiet rebellion against the person she had been forced to become. Outside, the restaurant buzzed with anxious anticipation. Ethan sat utterly still. He had stopped speaking, stopped listening to the investors. His mind was trapped in a memory he had spent years trying to bury. A kitchen from his childhood. A woman humming gently as she cooked. Her hands moving just like Maya's had. The same herbs. The same scent. The investors noticed his strange expression. Is everything all right, Ethan? One asked softly. He didn't answer. He just stared at the kitchen doors. Inside, Maya plated the dish with trembling pride. She looked at Chef Andre, who nodded once. You did it, he whispered. She carried the plate out herself. The dining floor parted like a sea as she approached Ethan's table. Every gaze locked on the quiet waitress carrying the dish that had stopped the night. Ethan's eyes rose slowly to meet hers. She set the plate before him. Her hands didn't shake this time. He lifted the fork, tasted the dish. And for a moment, the world seemed to stop. Ethan closed his eyes. His breathing hitched barely, but enough for Maya to notice. He set the fork down gently, like the plate contained something fragile. Then he looked at her, truly looked at her, as though seeing her for the first time. "What else can you cook?" he asked quietly. It wasn't a threat. It wasn't anger. It wasn't condescension. It was something entirely different. Curiosity. Recognition. Pain. The investors exchanged confused looks. The staff froze. Linda's face contorted in panic. Maya blinked, unsure if she heard correctly. "Sir, I'm not trained to." "Answer the question," Ethan said, softer this time. Maya hesitated before whispering. "A lot, but I haven't cooked professionally in years." Ethan leaned back, eyes still fixed on her. Then he said something no one expected. "I want you to make something else." Maya stared at him, stunned. What dish?" "Anything," he replied. "Something that's yours." The restaurant gasped. Chef Andre froze at the kitchen entrance, pride building behind his eyes. Maya's throat tightened. Ethan didn't look like a billionaire anymore. He looked like a man staring at a doorway to a past he didn't know he needed. Maya inhaled deeply and walked back into the kitchen, not as a waitress, but as a chef reclaiming the life she lost. The moment the investigation officially began, the world around Darius Hale seemed to change shape. What once was a perfectly controlled ecosystem, his mansion, his business empire, his personal staff, started revealing cracks he had never cared to notice before. But now every shadow, every whisper, every misplaced object felt like a clue or a threat. Detective Rivera didn't waste a second. As soon as the initial statements were recorded, she pulled Darius aside. "Your wife didn't just fall," she said quietly, her eyes drilling into his. "Whoever did this knew exactly when she would be on that balcony. That means your enemy isn't far. They're inside your circle." Her words hit him harder than any punch. Inside his circle. Inside his home. He nodded stiffly, pushing down the fear clawing at his throat. "Then we find them." But the detective wasn't done. She handed him a small evidence bag. Inside was a torn piece of fabric, deep red, silky, expensive. "This was found caught on the metal rail where your wife fell from," she said. "Does it look familiar?" He stared at it. It looked like part of a dress he had seen, but where? Before he could answer, Rivera added, "We'll run a test, but if you recognize it, I need you to tell me." He hesitated, because he did recognize it. It looked exactly like the color of the dress his event planner, Selene Ward, wore earlier that evening. But saying her name out loud felt like crossing a line he wasn't ready to cross, not without proof. Not when she'd been the most loyal partner in organizing every part of his life's biggest moments. Yet the fabric, the color, the texture, it was too close to be a coincidence. He swallowed the thought, keeping his voice steady. "I've seen similar fabric before, but I can't say for sure." Rivera narrowed her eyes, but she didn't push. "Fine, but stay alert. Whoever did this isn't finished." As the night deepened, the mansion slowly emptied. Police tape was pulled across hallways, rooms were sealed, and staff quietly retreated to their quarters. The house that normally glowed with warmth and movement now felt frozen, like everything inside it was holding its breath. Except for one person. Maya, the new housekeeper, moved silently down the hallway, clutching a trash bin she didn't actually need. She was nervous. Darius could see it. And when she reached the end of the hallway, her hands shook slightly as she pushed open the laundry room door. He followed her quietly. Not because he distrusted her, he barely knew her, but because something about her behavior all evening tugged at him. She was too quiet, too stiff, and she kept glancing at everyone as though memorizing their faces. He stepped inside behind her. "You've been acting nervous," he said calmly. She gasped and spun around. "Mr. Hale, sir, I didn't hear you." Her voice quivered. "That's the point," he said. "What are you afraid of?" Her eyes darted to the floor. For a moment she seemed ready to break, but then she straightened, forcing her voice to stabilize. "I'm just overwhelmed. Everything happened so fast." But he knew that look. Fear. Real fear. He stepped back, giving her space. If you know something, anything, now is the time. She hesitated again. Her grip tightened on the trash bin. And just when he thought she might finally confess, she shook her head and whispered, "I'm sorry, sir, I can't." Then she rushed past him, leaving him alone in the cold, empty room. Darius clenched his jaw. Everyone was hiding something. The next morning brought no clarity, only more chaos. Detective Rivera returned with lab results, and the moment she walked into the mansion, Darius could tell by her expression that things were about to get worse. "We analyzed the fabric," she said. "It belongs to a designer dress, custom high-end." Darius exhaled slowly. "Here's the part you won't like," Rivera continued. "The only person in this house who owns a dress from that designer is your event planner." Selene. It was no longer a suspicion. It was a match. Darius's chest tightened. She wouldn't. "She also left the venue early," Rivera said. "Before the paramedics arrived, we checked security footage. She slipped out through a back entrance." He froze. Selene claimed she stayed until the very end. She even came to him offering condolences. But the footage didn't lie. "Where is she now?" he asked. "That's the next problem," Rivera replied. "She's gone, her phone's off, her apartment's empty, her car is missing." Gone. Vanished overnight. Darius felt a coldness crawl down his spine. She ran. Rivera nodded grimly, which means she's guilty or terrified of whoever really is. Something hit him then, something he didn't want to believe. If Selene was running because she was innocent, then someone framed her. And that someone was living under his roof right now. Darius decided to act. He gathered the staff in the main hall, chefs, cleaners, drivers, security, assistants. Every one of them lined up, confused and uneasy. "We're not leaving this room," Darius said, "until everyone answers my questions. Someone knows what happened." Eyes widened, some whispered, some swallowed hard. And Maya, the new housekeeper, looked like she might faint. Detective Rivera stood at his side. She began interviewing each staff member one by one. Everything was going smoothly, until they reached the head of security, Marcus Kane. Darius trusted Marcus for nearly 9 years. Marcus never failed him, not once. But today, Marcus walked in with a limp that wasn't there yesterday. Rivera noticed instantly. "What happened to your leg?" Marcus forced a grin, twisted it running to the balcony when we heard the scream. Rivera raised an eyebrow. "Funny, because the security footage shows you weren't in the hallway when it happened." Silence. Marcus's face drained of color. "Where were you?" Rivera asked again, firmer this time. Darius's pulse quickened. Marcus had always been where he was supposed to be, always. But today, he hesitated too long. Finally, he muttered, "I stepped outside just for a minute, needed air." "During your shift," Rivera snapped. "Convenient." Marcus clenched his jaw. "I didn't do anything." "Then why did you disable the West Wing camera for 10 minutes before the incident?" she demanded. Every head in the hall whipped toward him. Darius's stomach twisted. Marcus, his most trusted guard, disabling the camera minutes before his wife fell. Marcus opened his mouth, desperate to explain, but then something unbelievable happened. Maya suddenly stepped forward. "Stop," she cried out. "He didn't disable anything, I did." The entire room erupted in gasps. Darius turned to her slowly. Maya's hands were trembling, tears filled her eyes. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I didn't want to say anything, but if I don't, someone else is going to get hurt." Her voice cracked. "You need to know the truth, Mr. Hale." And just like that, the rising tension that had been building since the night of the tragedy snapped. Everyone waited. The room went silent. Even Rivera froze, pen in hand. Maya took a shuddering breath. "I didn't come here to clean. I came here because I saw who pushed your wife." And with those words, the world around Darius exploded into 1,000 pieces. Maya's confession hit the room like a lightning strike. For a moment, no one breathed. No one even blinked. The air felt thick enough to choke on. Detectives, staff members, even Darius himself stood frozen, caught between disbelief and dread. Detective Rivera recovered first. You saw Asterisk who pushed his wife, she said, stepping forward, voice sharp, urgent. When, where, how? Maya wiped her trembling hands on her apron as if trying to wipe away the fear itself. I didn't mean to lie. I wasn't supposed to be here that night. I came early for my shift, and I saw something I shouldn't have. Darius stared at her, mind spinning. Start from the beginning, Maya. Tell me everything. She took a shaky breath. I was coming up the back staircase to deliver clean linens. It was near the balcony walkway. I heard voices, angry voices. A woman was arguing with someone. I didn't want to be seen, so I stayed behind the wall. Her voice cracked. Then I saw your wife step backward onto the balcony, and someone grabbed her arm. The room tightened like a clenched fist. Detective Rivera leaned in. Someone who, we need a name. Maya's eyes filled with tears. I don't know, I didn't see their face clearly. They wore a black coat with the hood up, and they were tall, maybe taller than you, Mr. Hale. Tall, hooded, covered. It narrowed things, but not enough. Darius tried to stay calm, and then what? Maya swallowed. Your wife said, please, you don't have to do this, and then the person shoved her. Gasps spread through the room like a wave. Maya covered her mouth with her hand, as if reliving the moment. She didn't fall by accident. She was forced off the balcony. Darius's stomach twisted violently. Hearing it confirmed, hearing it from someone who stood right there, it tore through him like a blade. Detective Rivera paced slowly, analyzing. Why didn't you come forward immediately? Maya's shoulders collapsed. Because I didn't trust anyone. I thought the killer might be working inside the house. I saw the cameras. I noticed some weren't working. I thought whoever did it might come after me if I spoke up. Rivera's eyes narrowed. So you disabled the West Wing camera yourself? Maya nodded shamefully. I wanted to sneak out without being seen, but then the police arrived and I panicked. Rivera exhaled. You made this investigation 10 times harder. I know, Maya whispered. I'm sorry. Darius stepped closer, his voice lower now, painful, almost raw. Maya, did you recognize anything about the attacker? Anything at all, their voice, their walk, their clothes? She hesitated, then something flickered in her expression. There was one thing, she said quietly. A ring. A ring, Darius repeated. Yes, Maya said. When the attacker grabbed your wife's arm, the sleeve slid up just enough for the balcony light to hit it. It was a black ring, thick, looked expensive. Darius felt his blood run cold. A black ring. He knew that description. He had seen such rings only twice in his life. They weren't common, custom-made, obsidian inlay, expensive, discreet. Only 3 people he knew owned one. One of them was dead. His wife bought hers as a fashion statement last year. The second was Darius himself, but he stopped wearing his months ago. And the third... He turned slowly, his eyes scanning the room. Marcus, the head of security, was no longer standing where he had been moments ago. Rivera noticed it at the same time. Where's Marcus? Staff members looked around nervously, but Marcus had vanished. He left the hall silently, without permission. Without anyone noticing. Rivera's hand immediately went to her holster. No one leaves this room, she ordered sharply, then she looked at Darius. Stay here. If he's running, we can't let him reach his car. But Darius stepped forward. I'm coming with you. Rivera opened her mouth to refuse, but the fury in Darius's eyes made her pause. She nodded once. Stay behind me. The mansion hallways felt different now, darker, narrower, as if fear itself lived in the walls. Darius and Rivera moved quickly, footsteps echoing. The tension was suffocating. They reached the West Wing, where the long glass windows reflected moonlight across the marble floor. A sound echoed, something metallic. Rivera raised her gun. Marcus, step out slowly. No answer. She scanned every shadow, every doorway, every corner. Then she spotted movement near the back storage hallway. A figure, tall, hooded, limping. Marcus. He turned his head toward them. And for the first time since Darius met him years ago, Marcus's eyes were filled with something he had never seen on that man's face. Panic. Don't move, Rivera shouted. But Marcus ran. Not fast, his limp made it uneven, but fast enough to force Rivera into a chase. Darius sprinted behind her, heart pounding so hard it hurt. Marcus burst through the back door, stumbling into the garage area. Rivera followed, gun steady, breathing sharp and controlled. "Stop right there," she yelled. Marcus turned. There was no escape. The wall was behind him, the detective in front of him. He was cornered. His chest heaved, his hands trembled. Rivera took a step forward. "You disabled the camera, you lied about your location, and now you ran. Give me one good reason not to arrest you right now." Marcus didn't raise his hands. He didn't deny it. He didn't even speak. He just stared at Darius with eyes full of a grief, so deep it felt ancient. Finally, he whispered, "I didn't kill her." Rivera scoffed, "Then explain." "But I know who did," Marcus said. Rivera froze. Darius froze. The entire garage felt like it stopped breathing. Marcus continued, voice breaking. "I wasn't supposed to say anything. I thought I could handle it. I thought I could confront them myself." "Confront who?" Darius demanded. Marcus swallowed painfully. "Someone you trust far more than you ever trusted me." Rivera stepped closer. "Give us a name." Marcus's voice was barely audible now. "I can't. If I say their name, they'll kill me. They'll kill all of us." Rivera tightened her grip on her weapon. "Marcus, listen carefully. If you don't talk, you're going down for this alone." Marcus looked past her, directly at Darius. His voice trembled. "I served you for 9 years, protected you more times than you'll ever know, but this enemy you're dealing with now," he shook his head slowly. "They don't fear you, they don't fear the police, they don't fear consequences." Darius stepped forward. "Marcus, look at me, who is it?" Marcus inhaled, steadying himself. Then he said a sentence that turned Darius's world upside down. "It's someone from your past, sir, someone you thought was gone forever." Darius's breath caught. "My past," Darius whispered. "Who?" But before Marcus could say another word, a sharp cracking sound sliced through the air. A gunshot. Marcus's body jerked violently. He collapsed onto the concrete floor. Rivera ducked instantly, grabbing Darius and pulling him behind a pillar. "Sniper, move." More shots punched holes into the garage wall, sending sparks flying. Darius's ears rang, his heart hammered. He tried to crawl toward Marcus's fallen body, but Rivera held him back. "Don't," she shouted. "He's gone, we need cover." But Darius couldn't tear his eyes away from Marcus's hand, stretched out toward him, as if still trying to speak. Marcus died before he could reveal the killer's name. And somewhere in the shadows of the mansion grounds, the real enemy aimed their rifle again, ready to finish what they started. Chaos swallowed the air. Sniper shots echoed against the mansion walls as Rivera dragged Darius behind a stone pillar. The garage lights flickered. Cold night air rushed in from the broken door Marcus had fallen through. "Stay down," Rivera hissed. But Darius's eyes were locked on Marcus's lifeless body, his longtime protector, the man who watched his son grow up, who stood guard at every door, who never once asked for praise. Now he lay on the cold concrete, eyes open, chest still. Because he had tried to speak. Because he had tried to protect him one last time. And someone silenced him for it. Darius's chest tightened, panic, rage, heartbreak all compressed into one unbearable knot. "Whoever killed him is still out there," Rivera whispered, scanning the dark tree line outside the garage. "And they're not running, they're hunting." A shadow moved outside. A silhouette. Tall, focused, unhurried. The sniper wasn't fleeing. They were repositioning. Rivera tapped her radio. "Officer down, sniper on site. I need backup at the Cole estate now." Static replied, "No confirmation, no help." The signal was jammed. Darius whispered, "We need to get Marcus's keys. We can escape through the side exit." "No," Rivera grabbed his arm tightly. "We are not running. Someone just executed a witness. This is now an active murder scene. We confront this, not escape it." Darius stared at her, voice low. "Confront who? We don't know who's out there." Rivera turned her head slowly, eyes narrowing. "But they know you asterisk." They crawled along the wall, staying hidden from the sniper's angle. Darius's mind raced, trying to make sense of Marcus's final words. Someone from your past? Someone you thought was gone? The possibilities were few. He had made enemies in business, yes, but killers, snipers, that belonged to another life, a darker chapter he'd buried years ago. Rivera pushed open a side maintenance door and motioned for him to follow. They slipped into a narrow hallway that led to the wine cellar, a maze of stone corridors beneath the mansion. Rivera whispered, "We need high ground and visibility. Snipers avoid enclosed spaces. That means they'll try to push us out." "Toward where?" Darius asked. "Toward whoever is giving the orders," she said. "They're flushing us like prey." The implication made Darius's stomach twist. "Someone hired them," he murmured. Rivera stopped walking. "Someone is orchestrating this whole night. Cameras disabled, witness silenced, police signal jammed. This wasn't panic, this was planning." They reached the cellar control room. Rivera flicked on the emergency lights. Dim amber bulbs buzzed overhead, casting long shadows. On the security table sat a wide console, showing the surviving camera angles from the estate. Rivera scanned each feed. The garden, clear. The driveway, clear. The balcony, still taped off from the investigation, empty. Then she froze. Garage rooftop. A figure crouched low. The sniper. Rivera zoomed in. The sniper wore matte black gear from head to toe, professional level. Not a gang member, not a panicked amateur, someone trained. But one detail stood out. On the sniper's right hand, gripping the rifle, a thick black obsidian inlaid ring. Darius's heart plummeted. Rivera turned. "You recognize that, don't you?" His voice came out hollow. "Only one person wore that ring, detective. One." "Name them." Darius's throat tightened. "Daniel Reed." Rivera's eyebrows shot up. "Your former business partner, the one who disappeared after the embezzlement scandal." "He didn't disappear," Darius said bitterly. "He ran, and I saved him, paid off his debts, gave him my silence so his family wouldn't lose everything." "And he repaid you by—" Darius swallowed. "By destroying my company anyway." Rivera's expression hardened. "If he's back, he didn't return alone." She scanned the monitors again. Something else shifted on the rooftop feed. Another figure stepped into view, silhouetted by moonlight. Not the sniper, someone giving orders. A woman, tall, confident, hair tied back, wearing a long coat. Rivera leaned closer. "Who is that?" Darius's hands began to shake. A memory surfaced, quiet, sharp, painful. His wife standing in the kitchen 6 months ago, arguing quietly on the phone. Her voice trembling. Her saying, "We had a deal and you broke it." Darius had asked her what that meant. She said it was work-related. But now, seeing that silhouette, something electric jolted through him. He whispered, "No, it can't be." Rivera turned. "Who is she?" Darius's voice cracked. "My wife's former business partner." "Name?" "Victoria Hale." Rivera stiffened. "The same Victoria who kept pushing your wife to invest more, the one who vanished after the balcony death." "Yes." "But she was questioned," Rivera said. "She had an alibi." Darius looked at the screen, at that familiar posture, that cold grace. Then her alibi was a lie. On the monitor, Victoria lifted her phone. The sniper lowered their weapon and listened. "Orders. Coordination." "Detective," Darius whispered, voice hollow. "I don't think Daniel killed my wife out of hate or revenge." Rivera frowned. "Then why?" Darius closed his eyes, pain thundering through him. "Because Victoria wanted something my wife refused to give her." "And what was that?" "Control," he said. "Over my company, my assets, my future, and my wife stood in her way." Rivera stared at the screen, her jaw tightening. "Your wife was murdered because she protected you." Darius's voice was barely audible. "Yes." "And Marcus?" Rivera asked quietly. Darius swallowed. He must have confronted them or overheard something. "And they took him out too," Rivera said. "Clean, efficient, professional. This isn't just revenge, Darius. This is takeover. Someone wants to erase your entire legacy." A chill crawled up Darius's spine. On the monitor, Victoria ended the call. The sniper adjusted position, aiming not at the garage now, but at the mansion windows. Rivera's eyes widened. They're trying to push us out into the open. Darius felt his breath quicken. Detective, if they know we saw them. They'll come inside, Rivera finished, and they won't stop until both of us are dead. The cellar lights flickered again. Then a loud, heavy clang echoed from above. A door slamming open. Footsteps. Multiple footsteps. Rivera grabbed Darius's arm. They're inside, move. But before they could slip into the lower tunnels, the security monitors flashed. A message appeared, typed in bold white letters across every screen. You should have STAYD quiet, DARIUS. Rivera whispered, they're tracking us. Then the final message blinked into existence. Now we come to you. The lights went out. Everything plunged into blackness, and footsteps began descending the stairs toward the cellar. The enemy was coming, and they weren't going to negotiate. Darkness swallowed the cellar. Complete, suffocating, silent darkness, broken only by Darius's shaky breathing and Rivera's steady, controlled inhale. Their eyes strained, their ears sharpened, every sound became louder. The soft hum of the wine refrigerators, the distant throb of generators outside, and the slow, echoing footsteps descending the stone staircase. Rivera whispered, stay behind me. But Darius didn't move toward safety. He was staring into the dark, fear simmering into something else. Rage. For his wife. For Marcus. For the years he spent trusting the wrong people. Rivera's voice pulled him back. Darius, we're not fighting in the dark, we escape, now. Before they could retreat deeper into the tunnels, a flashlight beam sliced through the darkness. Boots followed. 2 figures. One with a gun drawn. Another carrying a small, tactical device. Rivera grabbed Darius and whispered, they came prepared, stay low. The intruders moved with precision, checking corners, moving like people who had done this before. This wasn't a simple hit. This was a coordinated purge. Then a voice echoed through the cellar, calm, female, familiar. Darius. The flashlight beam shifted upward, illuminating a face Darius knew too well. Victoria Hale. Tall, elegant, cold. Her expression carved from stone. Come out, she said gently. Let's not end this like animals. Darius stepped into the beam before Rivera could stop him. His voice trembled with fury. You murderer. Victoria's smile didn't falter. You sound surprised. You killed my wife, Darius growled. Victoria tilted her head. I did what was necessary. She made promises she couldn't keep. She thought she could protect you from the collapse you created. Darius stepped closer, fists clenched. You pushed her. No, Victoria corrected softly. Daniel did. I simply positioned the pieces. The second intruder stepped into the light. Daniel Reed. The man Darius once trusted. The man he saved from ruin. He avoided Darius's eyes, grip tightening on his gun. Darius's voice cracked. You were my friend. Daniel's jaw tensed. I didn't have a choice. There's always a choice, Darius whispered. Victoria laughed, quiet, sharp, chilling. Oh, Darius, moral speeches won't save you tonight. Rivera stepped into the beam, gun raised. Drop your weapons, both of you now. Victoria didn't flinch. Detective, you're outnumbered, outplanned, outfunded. You think a badge protects you. It protects me enough to shoot you where you stand, Rivera said. Victoria's eyes glinted. Then do it. Her calmness made Rivera hesitate, just enough. Daniel raised his weapon to fire. Rivera dove behind a pillar and pulled Darius with her. Shots exploded. Stone shattered. Dust filled the air. Rivera fired back, not aiming to kill but to suppress, to buy time, to create an opening. Run, she shouted. Darius froze. His mind screamed to escape, but something in him refused to leave without answers. He sprinted toward the wine cellar's far side, the old archive room filled with crates and narrow shelves. Rivera covered him, bullets sparking off metal racks. Daniel followed. Darius ducked behind a shelf, heart slamming so hard he felt it in his throat. Daniel's footsteps approached. Darius stood slowly. "Daniel," he said softly, "before you shoot me, tell me one thing." Daniel stopped. "Why?" Daniel exhaled a long, tortured breath. "I owed Victoria. She saved my family. She paid my debts. She promised me a new life if I helped her remove the obstacles." Darius stared at him, disbelief choking him. "I removed your obstacles. I stood by you." Daniel's voice cracked, "And you became the biggest obstacle of all." He aimed the gun. Before he could fire, a shadow moved behind him. "Rivera." She tackled Daniel, knocking the gun away and shoving him into the shelves. Metal crashed. Bottles shattered. Daniel grabbed a broken piece of glass and slashed at Rivera, cutting her shoulder. She winced but punched him hard in the jaw, sending him crashing into crates. Victoria's voice echoed from the hallway. "Daniel, move." Rivera yelled, "Darius, run." But Darius didn't move. He grabbed Daniel's fallen gun and aimed it at the man who had betrayed him. Daniel held up one hand, bleeding, trembling. "Darius, don't." Darius's finger hovered on the trigger, shaking violently. He wanted to pull it, wanted justice, wanted revenge. But then he saw his wife's face in his mind, gentle, warm, steady. She had always told him, "Don't let the world turn you cruel." He lowered the gun. Daniel stared at him, shocked. Rivera exhaled in relief. "Good choice. Now let's end this the right way." A cold, calm voice cut through the darkness. "I expected better, Darius." Victoria stepped through the doorway, gun pointed directly at his chest. Her eyes were emotionless. Calculation without conscience. "You always did let your emotions ruin you," she said. Darius stepped forward. "You murdered my wife to take my company, but why kill me?" Victoria smiled. "Because you still own 51%, and because once you die tragically, I inherit your controlling shares through the trust your wife signed just 2 months before her death." The truth hit him like a blow. His wife hadn't been protecting herself. She had been protecting him. Rivera slowly raised her gun at Victoria despite her bleeding arm. "Put it down." Victoria sighed. "Detective, you're injured, out of ammunition, and surrounded." Darius glanced around. More shadowy figures were entering the cellar. 2, 3, 4 hired operatives lining the walls, blocking exits. Victoria stepped closer, gun steady. "It ends now, Darius." Darius closed his eyes. Then his voice steadied. "No, it ends with the truth." He stepped into the center of the cellar, putting himself between Rivera and the gunmen. "You're not killing us quietly. You wanted everything, Victoria, but tonight, the world will know exactly who you are." Victoria laughed lightly. "There is no world down here, Darius." But as she raised her gun, a voice echoed from the staircase above. Firm, powerful, unshaken. "Actually, there is." Dozens of lights flicked on. Red lights, blue lights, floodlights. Officers stormed down the stairs in formation, weapons drawn. "Police, drop your weapons." Rivera gasped in relief. "Back up, they actually made it." Victoria spun, furious. "How?" From behind the officers stepped a familiar figure. Maya, covered in dust, breathing hard, but standing tall. "I ran outside and got a signal," she said breathlessly, "and I told them everything." Victoria's face twisted, true panic breaking through her mask. Rivera shouted, "Drop it." For the first time, Victoria Hale hesitated. Then slowly, her gun clattered to the floor. Daniel dropped to his knees, shaking. The hired operatives surrendered. Darius's chest heaved, relief flooding him so hard he nearly collapsed. The nightmare was ending. The truth was out. His wife was finally vindicated. And the people who tried to erase him were surrounded, exposed, powerless. The darkness of the mansion had finally been pierced. And justice, slow, painful, hard-fought, had arrived. The mansion felt different once the gunmen were gone. For the first time all night, the silence wasn't threatening. It wasn't the hush before violence. It was the quiet that follows truth, the kind that lets walls exhale, that lets fear loosen its grip on the air. Police filled the corridors, collecting weapons, escorting Victoria, Daniel, and the remaining operatives out in handcuffs. Officers whispered in disbelief as they learned what had happened, what had almost happened, what had been hiding behind layers of wealth, power, and lies. Detective Rivera leaned against a pillar, her injured arm freshly bandaged, watching Victoria being escorted out. She planned everything with precision, she murmured, and still underestimated one thing. Darius stood beside her. What? The strength of the people she thought were powerless. Darius didn't answer. His eyes were fixed on the staircase where Maya stood, dust in her hair, a rip along her sleeve, hands still shaking from running for her life in the dark. But in her eyes there was a quiet depth, a steadiness that hadn't been there before. She had faced fear and wasn't swallowed by it. When Darius walked toward her, Maya dropped her gaze, suddenly unsure. "Mr. Hale," she started. But Darius stopped her with a gentle shake of his head. "Just Darius." Maya hesitated. She had never called him by his first name in her life, not once. But tonight, after everything, the formality felt strange, small, wrong. "Darius," she repeated softly. Emotion cracked his voice. "You saved us." Maya shook her head immediately. "No, Detective Rivera," she protected everyone, "you." He stepped closer. "Maya, you ran out into the night knowing there was a trained killer somewhere on the grounds. You found a signal, you brought help, you faced the truth even when it terrified you." He paused, voice deepening. "You risked your life for mine." Her throat tightened. "Your wife would have done the same." The name *wife* hung in the air like a fragile memory. Darius's eyes softened, not with sadness this time, but something quieter, acceptance, the beginning of healing. "She believed in kindness," he whispered, "in courage, in people who do the right thing even when the world gives them every reason not to." Maya nodded slowly. She was right about all of that. They stood in silence, the weight of the night settling slowly. Later, Darius followed the officers as they escorted Victoria down the walkway toward the patrol cars. She turned her head slightly, eyes sharp even in defeat. "You'll regret this, Darius," she hissed. He met her stare, calm, steady, no fear left in him. "What I regret," he said quietly, "is giving you the chance to stand beside us in the first place." She looked away, jaw tight, venom drained of all power now that it had nowhere to go. Daniel followed behind her, avoiding Darius's eyes. Shame clung to him like a shadow. He whispered, "I'm sorry." Darius didn't respond. Some words don't deserve answers. Inside the mansion, two crime scene investigators gently lifted Marcus's body onto a stretcher. Darius walked over, Rivera at his side. The sight stole his breath, Marcus lying peacefully now, the tension removed from his features. He looked almost like he was resting. Rivera touched Darius's shoulder. "He died trying to protect you, and he nearly told you the truth. Don't forget that." "I won't," Darius said, voice steadying. "He was loyal even when I didn't see it, even when I didn't appreciate it." "Then appreciate him now," Rivera said softly. Darius nodded. "I will. I'll take care of his family, his son, for life." Rivera allowed herself a small, tired smile. "That's justice, too." He exhaled shakily. "It's the least I can do." Hours passed. The sun began to rise, soft pink light stretching across the quiet hills beyond the estate. Finally, the nightmare was done. Officers started to clear the scene. Statements were taken, evidence collected. The mansion slowly transformed from a battlefield back into a home. Rivera approached Darius one last time. "You're safe now, but this case, it's going to be big, public, loud." "I know," Darius said. "You'll need protection, real protection." He nodded. "I want you to lead the detail." Rivera blinked, surprised. "Me?" "You saw everything clearly when I couldn't," he said. "You trusted Maya when nobody else did. You fought like hell for the truth. I trust you completely." Rivera looked away briefly, humbled. "Then I'll stay on the case, but only if Maya gives her testimony." Darius smiled softly. "She will." Maya was sitting alone on the back steps of the mansion, hugging her knees, watching the sunrise the way someone watches a world they weren't sure they belonged in. Darius walked out quietly and sat beside her, not too close, not too far. Maya didn't look at him, but her voice was gentle. It's strange. Everything feels the same, but I feel different. You are different, he said. Stronger, braver. She shook her head. I was terrified the whole time. Courage isn't the absence of fear, Darius replied. It's choosing what's right even when fear tries to stop you. She exhaled slowly, eyes watering. Tonight I learned something. People like me, we don't get listened to. We don't get believed, not at first, not usually at all. Darius nodded, understanding deeper than she expected. Your voice saved lives tonight, Maya, and it will save you too. She looked at him, really looked. Do you believe me now? He met her gaze without hesitation. I believe you with everything in me. Tears slipped down her cheeks, quiet, relieved tears she had held back all night. For the first time, she let herself breathe fully. A week later, Maya stood in a small courtroom beside Rivera, giving her testimony. She spoke clearly, calmly, without shaking. Her words painted the truth with unwavering strength. News crews filled the halls, headlines filled the city. Black waitress saves billionaire from murder plot. Heroic employee exposes corrupt business empire. Courage under fire, the Maya Thompson story. For once, the world wasn't ignoring her. It was listening. Maya's life changed. Testimony followed, recognition followed, people offered help, scholarships, protection, opportunities. Yet Maya stayed grounded. She went back to work part-time, helping Rivera's team with witness support. She wanted to give others what she never had. And Darius? He rebuilt. Not the company, not at first, but himself. He invited Marcus's family to live on the estate while arrangements were made. He created a foundation in his wife's name, supporting abused whistleblowers, underserved communities, and minority staff in corporate power structures. He showed up at community centers, sponsored safety programs, supported survivors of systemic injustice. He became the man his wife always saw in him. And Maya became the quiet strength at the center of his healing. One afternoon, months later, Darius approached her during a charity event. Maya, he said warmly, I have something for you. She looked up, confused. He handed her a simple envelope. Inside was a letter of recommendation, powerful, heartfelt, and a scholarship fund in her name. The Maya Thompson Scholarship for Courage and Integrity. Her breath caught. Darius, I can't accept this. You earned it, he said softly, because you reminded me and the world that courage doesn't come from power, it comes from truth. She blinked back tears. Thank you. He shook his head. No, thank asterisk you asterisk. Maya looked around at the people she had once served from the shadows, now talking to her, thanking her, valuing her. The world had changed. Because she spoke. Because she stood. Because she refused to let fear win. And as the evening sunlight cast gold across the room, Maya realized something she had never felt deeply before. She wasn't invisible. She wasn't small. She wasn't powerless. She was seen, heard, respected, and finally free. In the end, the restaurant felt different. Quieter, softer, almost humbled. People who had spent years walking past Maya without a second glance now watched her with a different kind of respect. Not because she fought back, not because she proved her skill, but because she reminded them of something they had forgotten. Dignity doesn't need permission. Greatness doesn't ask for approval. And truth always rises. Jard Reed came to La Mer believing he owned the world, believing money could buy talent, loyalty, or even worth. But Maya showed him something that no billion-dollar tech company could teach. Sometimes the strongest people are the ones you underestimate. Sometimes the quietest person in the room carries the loudest truth. He entered the restaurant looking for someone to blame. He left the restaurant searching for someone to become. And Maya, she didn't walk away with revenge. She didn't need it. Because the world finally saw what she had been silently fighting for her whole life. That black excellence doesn't need an introduction. It announces itself through work, heart, and perseverance, even when no one is watching. Her journey wasn't about proving she was good enough. It was about reminding the world to look closer asterisk. To judge slower. to respect deeper, and to never assume a person's value from their uniform, their skin, or their position on a name tag. Justice in this story didn't come through punishment. It came through revelation, through truth stepping out of the shadows, through a billionaire discovering that humility is worth more than any company he could ever own. And if there's one message this story leaves behind, it's this: never underestimate the person society tries to overlook, because the one you ignore today may be the one who changes your life tomorrow. If this story touched you, share it with someone who needs a reminder that respect is free and kindness is powerful